Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Just over a month until Trevor Noah will host the Grammy Awards once again. He told Essence, "Can I be honest? It gets more and more stressful every single time because every Grammys is every artist's most important Grammys. I don't want to be the host who screw things up when it's Taylor Swift's Grammys or when it's Bad Bunny's Grammys. I would say it's probably one of the most stressful jobs I do because the night is not about me. My job's to keep it going and to keep a connection between the audience and what's happening on the night. It's a rewarding job, but man, it's terrifying." Essence asked Trevor, "A lot of entertainers, when they reach a certain level, they get away from stand-up a little bit. You're staying sharp. You keep doing it. What keeps pulling you back to doing stand-up specials?" Trevor Noah said, "Man, stand-up is a blessing. That's the simplest answer I can give you. I don't take stand-up comedy for granted. I don't take it for granted that I can put on a show and thousands of people come out to join me and laugh together and experience this collective feeling of joy. I really, really, really don't take that for granted. So what's important to me is appreciating that and remembering what it means. Also, I think stand-up comedy is one of the hardest art forms and that it's a really lonesome activity. When you make music, you work with a producer and you work with other artists and you write together and you collaborate in the studio. By the time you put the song out in the public, you've got a consensus of people who've given you the idea that it's good and you have a collective to fall back on. When it comes to making a movie, it's the same thing. But stand-up is a crazy beast that nobody can tame. You can be the funniest comedian today and you can tell a joke tomorrow and it doesn't work the way you'd like it to. I think there's nothing more exciting in the creation of art than doing something like that. It's immediate." Esquire spoke to Gary Gulman about his first big break. Gary did a tight 5 minutes at Just for Laughs in Montreal in July '99. He landed a $250,000 development deal with Fox. He was going to be a sitcom star. He moved to L.A. The network paired him with a writer. Gary said, "We sat around, we wrote a pilot, and then they said, no thanks." The next summer, he did another 5 minutes at a showcase in L.A., got a similar deal with CBS, again turned down. The next year, similar deal with Showtime, same result. Gary said, "I was making a really good living selling ideas based on my stand-up for sitcom pilots that never got shot. It was so frustrating." In 2003, Gary finished third on Last Comic Standing. Is Last Comic Standing 20 years ago already? Wow. That burst of fame enabled Gary to sell out shows around the country for about 6 months. Then that died down. In 2015, he put together what he knew was his strongest set of material yet. It included the abbreviating the states bit. He taped a special called It's About Time with full confidence it would finally deliver a bigger fan base. The producers had a hard time selling it, and it wound up on Netflix at a discount rate months later. Glad to see Gary in ascendancy right now. That last special is fantastic. If you haven't watched it yet, it was my #1 special of 2023. Tulsa World spoke to Kathleen Madigan. Years ago, she tried to be a flight attendant, but she was told she didn't meet a height requirement. I've spent time with Kathleen. I never thought of her as particularly short or anything. Kathleen presumes the height requirement is because you have to be tall enough to reach the overhead bins. She said, "They didn't tell me about it until I'd already made it through 2 other interview things. I've worked in restaurants and waited tables. I would have been good at it, but they didn't tell me that until the 3rd interview," which I'm like, why couldn't you have put that in the brochure at the beginning? Her current show, if you go see her live, includes greatest hits and some new material. And she said, "Sometimes I'll do some throwback stuff only because that's the kind of show I like to see. I like to see maybe a throwback here or two, something from I just saw, and then a bunch of new stuff." Her special Hunting Bigfoot came out last February. Kathleen says there's lots of Bigfoots around. Florida's got one. Michigan, there's versions of him everywhere. She's not scared of Bigfoots, but she's still scared of corporate gigs because a lot of people didn't pay to be there. Kathleen says a lot of them don't know anything about stand-up comedy, and it could go sideways, and I've had some that did. There's nothing you can do about it, and some of them are great, some of them are like a normal crowd, but any comic would tell you it's too dicey. But real life, going on stage in clubs, she's not afraid. I think it didn't bother me because if you're a bartender or a server, you have to walk up to strangers, 50 times a night and go, "Hi, I'm Kathleen." You have to be able to be comfortable with that or you quit. W. Kamau Bell tells the San Francisco Chronicle he plans to get his act together and return to comedy. It's been a 5-year hiatus, but he's got a new show. W. Kamau Bell gets his act together. See what he did there? An 8-show stand-up residency at the Bakery Studio in Berkeley. Each hour-long set will showcase new material inspired by current events in his own life. The limited engagement kicks off January 20th, then every Saturday night through March 16th. Howie Mandel spoke to the Press Enterprise about how he got into comedy, and he said it was by seeing a show called Candid Camera. Remember that show? That show was great. Howie says, "I love pranks and things like that because that's the most relatable, real kind of comedy there is. It's fun to do it, to be part of it, and it's relatable because you can watch it and laugh and think, what would I do? Or I'd never believe that. Or what if I was in that situation? It's just real. We used to watch TV and everything was scripted, and now reality TV, YouTube, and TikTok are just real people doing real things, aren't they? Hidden Agenda Prank is the reality TV of comedy." He talks about how things have changed. There was only one place to go to if you were going to make a living at comedy. You had to come to LA and get on at the Comedy Store. That's where maybe somebody who was producing TV or film would see you and give you an opportunity that changed your life. Today, you can sit in your underpants or your bed in Oklahoma and get 100 million people seeing what it is you do, and you can actually monetize that and make a living and a career out of it. Look at Matt Rife, a very funny guy who was having a hard time, and so we saw him do crowd work on TikTok. The Snow Jam Comedy Festival will be coming back, but it's its final year. That makes me sad, but there's a reason. Snow Jam returns to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for its 8th and final year, January 18th through the 21st. Its mission, to celebrate comedy and snow while enriching the community by supporting nonprofit organizations in South Dakota. This year's headliners include Timmy Williams from The Whitest Kids You Know and Sean Jordan from The Late Late Show. Dan Bublitz Jr., friend of the show, and Dan and I were texting on the side. I think I'm going to do another episode where Dan and I just chat about comedy for an hour or so. I just got to clear my schedule and find some time to spend with Dan. But Dan said, Snow Jam Comedy Festival started as a joke, and it lasted 8 years, which is longer than we thought it would. It's bittersweet knowing this is our last year, but it's better to go out on a high note and leave the crowd wanting more. If you want to check it out, I'll talk about it as it gets a little closer. snowjamcomedyfestival.com. The Guardian spoke to prop comics. Bill O'Neill has a solo show called The Amazing Banana Brothers. It chronicles the poignant attempt of two stuntman brothers to slip on the most banana peels. Bill says, I have this illusion that I'm in charge of what's going on, but there are all these bananas on stage and there's sort of landmines waiting. I've gotten good at throwing myself around, but every once in a while, one of these suckers sends me crashing to the ground. That reminds me, when I did the marathon in November, they were pretty late in the race, like mile 16 forward. They were giving out bananas, and people were throwing banana peels on the ground. When you run a race, it's normal. You grab your water, and then you just throw your cup, and the volunteers clear it up. So you'd go through the rest station and there'd be a mix of water on the ground and banana peels. I had to walk through these things. I mean, I had to walk through them anyway. It was miles 16, 17, 25, and I was exhausted. But I'm like, this is not a good idea. Bill O'Neill's show requires 80 fresh banana skins for each show. He says that adds up to a lot of peeling and cleaning. Weeks after doing the show at London Soho Theatre, staff found an errant banana lodged in the ceiling. In Lucy McCormick's show, the stage is so submerged in tomato puree, confetti, and wine, the audience helps her clean up. In the debut show by sketch duo Grubby Little Mitts, 1,000 ping pong balls rain down on the audience. Rosie Nichols is in that sketch duo and says, we want our show to be on the line between theater and comedy. Props play a really big part in that. So for Bill O'Neill's banana show, part of the challenge, again, he's only using the peels. What do you do with the banana part of the banana? He had 2,000 bananas. What do you do with them? They contacted the Edinburgh Zoo. They couldn't take them. Eventually, they found local businesses making smoothies and deep-fried bananas. O'Neill said, there were shows where my shoulder would pop out, and I was writhing around trying to pop it back in. Just another thing that keeps it exciting. All right, if you want to go see The Amazing Banana Brothers, that show's in London at the Soho Theatre starting tomorrow through the 13th. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the show, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you want to support the show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Throw a couple bucks in the tip jar, or join the $2 club, or become a member for $5 a month, however you want to do that. Or if you're hip to podcasting 2.0 and value for value, you can follow this show on the Fountain app and stream some sats in my direction. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it's a little bit explained in the show notes. See you tomorrow.